All right, shalom, shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak, Wadash. On the same, give double honors to the apostles and the bishop elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his word in truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to the elect. Lord willing, we're some of those men and women that believe and fear in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and that are patiently waiting for the day of our salvation. And I'm the brother Gabar Yahweh from Gmail. And the brother Salaki. I'm the brother Gabar Howard from GMS Hawaii, coming to you with another lesson. And this lesson is entitled Salaki. The title of this lesson is entitled "A Business Plot: The American Coup That Failed." Right, and so the elder apostle Gabar, elder apostle Ramla, they did a video earlier today entitled "A Daily Stream 118." Psalm 73, the International Bankers, and in it they mentioned Smelly Butler. The last couple of days, Apostle Gabar had been going live, and he mentioned Smelly Butler, and I kind of put like a couple of comments on his. I put a couple of comments on the live stream, and he showed it, but he didn't get an opportunity to go into it. So I figured since I had the time, I wanted to go into it because if brothers are familiar with Smelly Butler, he's the one that said war is a racket, right? In fact, here's a quote right here. War is a racket, right? Smelly Butler, quote. I'm just gonna get the quote. Right, he wrote a book called War is a Racket. So Major General Smelly Butler, famous quote from his pamphlet, War is a Racket. War is a racket. It always has been. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It's the only one international in scope, right? It is the only one international in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives. He argued that war benefits a small group of industrialists and financiers who profit immensely while the common people pay with their lives and resources, making soldiers high-class muscle men for big businesses, Wall Street, and for bankers. Now, the reason why Smelly Butler said that is because he was himself hired by the bankers to take over America, right, during the time of what's this guy, Theodore Roosevelt. Now, understand this too, that these all insiders, all of these men are insiders, including Roosevelt. But there's I guess it's like an unspoken thing where when we speak about the elite, most people would just assume that they're all together and all on one page. You got elite financiers, elite bankers, elite corporations, and then you got the elite families, right? Now, on these days, they all want to push for that new world order. That's something they all agree on, is that they want a new world order where they rule. But nonetheless, you've always had opposite sides. Even the Rothschilds, every family member don't agree the same thing. I remember when Evelyn de Rothschild was alive and Jacob Rothschild was alive. Evelyn de Rothschild supposedly he was against the whole one state thing in Israel. He was with the two state thing. But his brother Jacob, his cousin Jacob Rothschild, he was with the one state thing, where the small hats had rule. In fact, his forefathers, they financed that shit, right? They financed the creation of Israel, but not every Rothschild is a staunch Zionist. They do want the New World Order, though, but they're not a staunch Zionist. In fact, they don't even really believe in the scriptures, right? They're outwardly, they profess they're Jews, but they're not, right? They're not religious, right? They don't follow the Torah, right? They're playing games, right? Because they know that they're the Edomites, right? And these Edomites, you've always had issues with Edomites. Go back to Greece, to the Hellenistic period. After Alexander's death, his generals, they want their own way, and it was warring with each other. Matter of fact, this is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse I'll start at 1, right? Showing you that Alexander the Great and his father Philip, was in the Bible. So First Maccabees 1:1, and it happened after Alexander, the son of Philip of Macedon, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Checham and had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and Medes, and he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, because his father wanted Greece. He wanted the whole Greece. His father only ruled Macedonia and like certain small areas, but his father Philip was warring with the Persians, right, in the Medes for years, right, and he could never get a foothold over them because it wasn't for him; it was for Alexander. Let's keep on reading. And made many wars and many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, right, and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. So that pride was on him because he was winning. He was catching nothing but W's. And he gathered a mighty strong host, which is an army, and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him, right? And that including Judea, right? And after these things, he felt sick and perceived that he should die. It says, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth. And those were the generals, right? Lysimachus, Cassandra, Ptolemy, Seleucid, these people. And it says, and wherefore he called his servants and such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive, right? So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And after his servants bare rule, every one in his place, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Now, when these evils were multiplied in the earth, you know, it was one, because of the Edomites and their wickedness that they spread, but two, these generals didn't see eye to eye, right? They were cool or working with each other together when Alexander was alive, because he was the boss man. But when the boss man died, they just started fighting each other, right? So here it is. You got the Greek kingdom or the Hellenistic kingdom, right? You had, let me show you the different factions, the different Hellenistic rulers, right? Let me see what it says. It says you had right here. You had Hellenistic rulers were successors of Alexander the Great, primarily his generals, the Diadochi, who carved up his empire into large kingdoms like the Ptolemaic kingdom, that was Ptolemy, Soter, the Seleucid Empire in the east, Seleucus the first, Nicator, Antiochus the third, right, and the Antigonid dynasty in Macedonia and Greece, Antigonus, and the second Gonades, and alongside others in Thrace, Lysimachus, and the two chief empires or kingdoms out of the Greek Empire at that time after his death were the Ptolemaic Empire and the Seleucid Empire, right? When you look at it on a map, when you look at it on a map, this is where they split it up. Let me give you a great example, right? So you had this right here. You had the it's not that clear. Here, right here. You had the Seleucid, you had the Ptolemaic, and you had the kingdom of Cassandra and the kingdom of Lysimachus, right? And then the kingdom of Lysimachus and Cassandra was smaller, but they were ruling. Like he had basically the Mediterranean Sea, right? And him and the kingdom of Lysimachus. But the two biggest kingdoms were the Ptolemaic kingdom and then the Seleucid kingdom, right? And these guys were all fighting each other, right? There was a bunch of infighting going on, Edomite shit, right? Because most people assume that Edomites all agree, and they don't, right? And that's on purpose, right? Because they don't really share a strong brotherhood within themselves. They're just a bunch of ruffians, man, right? For the lack of a better word. And so they would destroy each other. So that show you even now, there's a great movie, I believe it was Blade 1, where it showed the younger vampire led by the younger guy, I forget his name, and then you had the older vampires, and they were fighting with each other for supremacy. And that's the same thing that happened here and during the Hellenistic world after Alexander's death, right? So like, after Alexander's death, you had his 4 generals and a few subsidiaries carve up his land and carve up his kingdom and took it into themselves, right? And as they took it unto themselves, they were fighting with each other. And then you had in the background, you had the Edomite factions that took over Rome, right? And then they end up becoming a mighty army after that. And even during the Roman Empire, what were they doing? They were killing each other, assassinating each other. Like the nigga, what's his dude name? What is his man? Julius Caesar. This nigga, he got assassinated. So you had a whole bunch of cutthroat shit going on amongst these Edomites, because that's how they get down. And even now, as the Edomite Empire starts to fall and implode here in America, you got the same thing going on. That's why the Lord said this in the book of Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, right? And the modern day Egyptians are these Edomites. We are in spiritually Sodom and Egypt, are we not? Okay? And so this is not something new. This is not something that's foreign to the Edomites. They've always plotted against one another to try to get some type of supremacy, right? And so I wanted to bring this out. It's something called the business plot, right? So I'll give you the synopsis, and then I'll go into the chat and we'll go through it. It says, yes, wealthy financiers and business leaders, some are connected to banking and industry, allegedly plotted the business plot or Wall Street push in 1933 to 1934 to overthrow President Franklin D. Roosevelt and install a fascist government intending to use decorated retired Marine Major General Smedley Butler to lead a veterans army. But Butler exposed the plot to Congress, leading to hearings where he testified, though no one was prosecuted. So here it is, even in his own society, the white man, they don't even pass justice, because if you did some shit like that any other time, let's say those businessmen were so-called black Negroes, they would have hung everybody. But because these dudes were business insiders, right? They were business insiders. This is the reason why they got away with it, right? And then they try to use veterans, right? Because they were gifted men in war. They were men of experience, right? They try to use veterans to overthrow it, right? It says, key details plot, the goal to replace FDR's New Deal government with fascist dictatorship using forces of 500,000 veterans. The masterminds, a group of wealthy industrialists, and even now they won't even say their names, wealthy industrialists and bankers frustrated with FDR's policy. Butler's role, he was approached to be a fighter, a figurehead, leader, given money and asked to organize veterans. And that's what you got today. These politicians today, they're nothing but figureheads for the corporations and the banking elite. That's all they are, right? To do their business and do their bidding. Not that FDR wasn't, because he was too. He was a fucking puppet too, in a wheelchair, right? He was a puppet in a wheelchair. So here it is. You got a puppet government run by a shadow elite, right? Trying to destroy their own situation. And they don't teach you about this in high school. You don't learn about this in history class unless you may go to an Ivy League school or something. But you don't hear nothing about this shit. Well, I wonder why. Right? And then the dude, Smedley Butler, I guess he had some type of conscience. He already knew that war was a racket. He already knew that it was a falsehood where you sacrifice a whole bunch of poor people's lives for a small elite group of people to enrich themselves, man. Right? So and shalom to all the brothers and sisters on the comment board, bro. Hey, shalom, my brother. I see the brother GMS Melbourne. He's up in here, man. Anyway, so let me go to the chat, right? Let's go to this chat. It's something called a business plot. I asked the question, why did the business plot fail? The business plot failed because it never gained the secrecy. And that's what these elite banking families and these banking, their subsidiaries, that's what they operate in, secrecy. And that's why Jay Rockefeller said, what? The internet should have never been invented, right? He said it right here. Let me see if I can find it. Right, J. Rockefeller. J. Rockefeller on the internet, right? Right. J. Rockefeller said at a cybersecurity meeting right here about controlling the internet. Yeah, let me play this real quick for you, brothers. Let me play this real quick for you. Just bear with me. I'm gonna let you hear it. Secrecy is their number one goal. Without secrecy, they have nothing, right? And because of that, secrecy is gone. Right now, they gotta operate way different than they did before, right? So this is J. Rockefeller. He's a scion of the Rockefeller family, right? This demon, right? Let me play this real quick.
A full committee hearing on cybersecurity. And this comes within our purview on this committee. And not trying to be dramatic about it, when the internet was invented, everybody fell flat in their face. They were so thrilled. And the world began to do business in a different way. Now, both the President Bush's Director of National Intelligence, Mike McConnell, who I greatly respect, and President Obama's Director of National Intelligence, Admiral Blair, who I greatly respect, have labeled cybersecurity perpetrated through the internet as the number one national hazard of attack on the homeland in West Virginia, in West Virginia, America, or anywhere else. So, it really almost makes you ask the question, would it have been better if we never invented the internet and had to use paper and pencil or whatever? And that's a stupid thing to say, but it has genuine consequence.
Yeah, and that consequence is that it's revealing you. It's revealing the banking elite. It's revealing your mode of operandi, right? It's revealing your secrets slowly but surely. And that's why they using all these different mechanisms to curtail the internet, right? They want to create a narrative that benefits them, not a narrative that goes against them. That's why even now, when you type in, let's say, the Rothschild family, the first thing you see when you type in the Rothschild family on YouTube, they give you a hold on, brothers. Hold on. They give you basically a caution, right? I'll show it to you. I'll show you what I mean, right? So when you type in the Rothschild family, when you type in the Rothschild family, this is what pops up. You see this right here? It's like a warning. Wikipedia: the Rothschild family is a wealthy Ashkenazi Jewish noble banking family originally from Frankfurt. The family documented history starts in the 16th century. In 16th century Frankfurt. Its name is derived from the family house Rothschild, built by Isaac Elkin Bacharach, right? And then, like, normally, if you type in like the Rothschild family NWO, right? You see these, this what pops up, right? Then you go to if you go to one of the videos, this is what you'll see, right? So that's just a short. Come on, brother. Come on. Hold on. You go to the videos, right? You go to videos, and this is what you see. You see this shit pop up? Why they do this? Because they know that they're always attached to the so-called conspiracies, right? And these devils been in power for a long time, bro. Right? Over 500 years, and they've been catching nothing but W's. So when you type in the New World Order, the NWO, they give you these. They usually give you these little warning things. Why? Because it exposes them, right? And the average person knows it. Man, there's a video of David the Rothschild being hounded by ambush journalism, right? David the Rothschild, this guy, he was in that Coup too. He was in that Coup, right? He followed these journalists. He followed these journalists out because they were asking him some serious questions and shit, right? And he's the son of Evelyn de Rothschild. Like this one video right here. See this video right here? We Are Change. This is Lord Jacob Rothschild. He was walking the street by himself. Walking the street. You see? They always put this damn blue thing here. This nigga's walking this back when he was alive. He's walking the street and they ask him all questions about the Federal Reserve. And these people ask questions that they don't really understand. Like, he's not going to sit there and tell you about the Federal Reserve and him owning it or the other banking elite. That's not his business to tell you that shit. But as soon as he heard him say Federal Reserve, he just dismissed them. And they followed him down the street and he asked, hey, what news agency are you with? Why do you think he asked him that? Because he owns all the news agencies. So if he found out it was somebody that worked for him, they're going to be fired, ostracized, probably killed. You know what I'm saying? But it was just some ambush journalism shit. And the same thing happened to David the Rothschild. But again, you would not be able to see this shit if the internet didn't exist. The Wadi Yahaba Shimon Shai for the internet. Because the internet wasn't just to expose the elite, it was also to expose the truth of who the Israelites are. And to spread the word, the judgment, the truth, all of that. And then you had guys like Jay Rockefeller, who's a distant cousin to the Rothschilds, probably close cousin, right? They like to change their names. That's another thing. They expose them. Benjamin Netanyahu, that's not his name. That's an alias. That nigga named Benjamin Malikowski is some crazy shit from Poland. Right? So you got a lot of people operating under pseudonyms, right? But you would not be able to know that if the internet didn't exist. Right? So now that the internet exists, what they got to do, they got to disassociate themselves. They got to curtail the information. They got to defame the people that's bringing that information out. You got a lot of whistleblowers that were signed up, right? And then they supposedly got out, and then they start talking. But the average person not going to believe what they say because they don't know how to associate it with the scriptures, right? So going back, man, I wish it was brother that can get on with me, man. I know your Apostle Gabar would like this. But anyway, let's keep on edifying, bro. So going back to this right here, why did the business plot fail? It says the business plot failed because it never gained secrecy, right? Let me read that again. It never gained secrecy or unity or legitimacy needed to move from talk to action. And because it was exposed early by the very man the plotters tried to recruit, right? I'm surprised they didn't smoke this dude, bro, for giving up the goods. But the one thing that it lacked secrecy and unity and legitimacy, which it had all those things. It was just set up that it wouldn't work. And it was probably something used to scare Roosevelt into submission. Not that he wasn't already. It says what was the business plot? The business plot, so-called Wall Street push, was an alleged 1933 to 34 scheme by wealthy businessmen and financiers to overthrow or sideline President Franklin Roosevelt and replace him with an authoritarian Secretary of General Affairs. So they were going to get rid of the presidency, and you was just going to get an authoritarian, totalitarian government under the Secretary of General Affairs, showing you that these people, they post people into these high positions. You see? And it says they sought to recruit Smedley Butler, a highly respected Marine Corps general, to lead a force of veterans against the government. It says why it failed, key reasons. They chose the wrong man. You see, they chose the wrong man. Unlike with Trump, unlike this guy, like this dude said right here. Man, hold on, bro. Shit, bro. fucking heathen. I hate living here, bro. Fuck, man. This guy right here, he's the right man. They chose the right. They're showing you that all these leaders are nothing but puppets, bro. Including Smelly Butler. He was a fucking puppet too. But he was kicking back. Right? It says what? Let's read that again. It says they chose the wrong man. Butler was anti-Wall Street and anti-fascist. Instead of joining, he reported the plot and later testified under oath. Without Butler's credibility and leadership, the plan collapsed. No real mass support. The plotters assumed veterans could be mobilized, but there was no organized army, no unified command, no popular backing. Veterans were angry about benefits, not eager to overthrow the Constitution for bankers. So these bankers, they used, that's why he said it. All, was it Michael Rivera? All wars are bankers' wars, bro. All wars are fucking bankers' wars, man. All right? All wars are bankers' wars, right? Michael Rivera. I believe this is it right here. This is the documentary right here. There's a few videos on here. 15 minutes of all war or bankers' wars, man. This is something you should check out, bro. Matter of fact, I'll copy the link. I'll copy the link and I'll post it up. I'll post it onto the chat. You brothers can check this out. All wars are bankers' wars, man. Yeah, I posted it up to the chat. You brothers get time, you can check it out. Anyway, this is why they said that, right? Because that's what they want. And that's why another reason why even now they don't try to galvanize the veterans. Because most veterans that lead the military, we're what? We're disillusioned with the military, with global politics, with the country. Because you get treated like shit. So they thought that they're going to use a pseudo army, a military, to back them, right? And get some puppet, give him some money, right? And some prestige, and he'll do it. And this dude said no. Exposure stopped momentum. Butler went public and testified before McCormick Dickinson Committee, a precursor to HUAC. Once exposed, plausible deniability, and they love that. They love plausible deniability, vanished, and participants backed away. So when he exposed them, plausible deniability wasn't there for them no more, right? The New Deal undercut the plot. Roosevelt's early New Deal measures stabilized banks, created jobs, and reduced revolutionary pressure. The crisis atmosphere, which the New Deal was brought on by the bankers anyway, right? The New Deal came after what? The bank collapse of 1929. And then this dude came up with the Social Security card, the birth certificate, all of that shit. Well, I don't think he came up with it by himself, but you know, the think tanks, they came up with all of that shit. The track citizens to use them as collateral for the banking elite. So it wasn't like the New Deal was anything good, and especially for the so-called Negro at that time in America, and the so-called Native American, it wasn't shit for us. So it says Roosevelt's early New Deal measure stabilized banks, created jobs, and reduced revolutionary pressure. The crisis atmosphere, the plot depended on, was fading, not escalating. Elite cowardice. Those involved preferred influence without risk. When exposure threatened reputations and fortunes, they retreated. Unlike European fascist movements, U.S. elites weren't willing to die or go to prison for it. And they still not. Why no one went to prison? The plot never reached execution. So you telling me a group of highly connected individuals, banking elites in America, they didn't go to prison because it didn't reach execution? Come on, bro. Even if you tried to plot to overthrow the government, man, you still gonna be locked the fuck up. You don't get no pass for that. But when you're the elite, you do. Evidence showed intent and discussion, not overt acts. That's why you got something called, look something up called the what is that shit called? The Patriot Act. They was locking people up just for having group sessions at their crib, talking. Powerful figures denied involvement. Of course they did. Congress exposed it, but did not prosecute. This doesn't mean it was harmless. It means it was preempted. Bigger takeaway: the business plot failed because power tried to rule without legitimacy. Well, great. Well, check this out. When you read, and this shit is happening now, and it's going to happen even more. But when you read in the GNT, right? When you read in the GNT, second Ezra chapter 15, right? Second Ezra chapter 15 in the GNT. Okay, it says this. Let's start at verse 14. The world, it says, the world and the people in it are doomed. The war that will bring their destruction, which is the World War III, is very near. Nations will arm themselves to fight against other nations. That's happening right now. There will be great political turmoil. This is the focus I want. There will be great political turmoil with one group trying to overthrow another and gain control while ignoring the legitimate government. So this happened before, it's happening now. Especially we in a midterm year right now. This dude Trump, he said, "Hey man, we gotta win the midterms. If we don't, they're gonna what do you say? He said they're gonna impeach me." Right? So, and then you got another a round of politics coming up in 29, right? Where the new president is gonna get in there. So what would have happened if we had war, right? And you got the voting thing going on, and then you got a new president, a legitimate government, but then this dude don't want to relinquish power, or his cabinet don't want to relinquish power, right? They're gonna be fighting each other, and it's the same thing. It's the same shit that been happening, bro. Ain't nothing new under the sun. You see? So it says, big takeaways, the bigger takeaways, the business plot failed because the power tried to rule without legitimacy. The military refused to be politicized. And that even now, the military is in a pocket of the government. They truly are the muscle for the bankers now. Right? You got some generals that try to, speak up, but then they get fired. So they never can. No one general can take a whole battalion or group of soldiers and fight against America. It's not going to happen. They don't have that power like that. And they all insiders and work for the elite anyway. The plot relied on secrecy and elite coordination that never solidified. It is a reminder that authoritarianism often begins in the boardrooms before the streets, and that exposure early, incredible can stop it. Well, it ain't nothing going to stop it because it's still a plot. That's why you got this precept right here. It says Psalms 64:8, so they shall make their own tongues to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. So here it is. These things that these people are plotting, right? You got people like Smedley Butler, or you had people like Smedley Butler, John Todd, Linda Thompson, all these people that were insiders that now they are trying to expose it as if the American people can be galvanized to fight against it. These people are dumb, stupid, and overweight and sick. They can't do shit. They ain't in a mindset to doing nothing. They only care about their, how their life is going to be personally affected. So Americans can't do nothing. When they talk about Americans, they ain't talking about you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, bro. They're talking about these homegrown Edomites here in America that love America, right? It says right here, I says, why did the bankers not want the New Deal to succeed? Short answer, the New Deal directly threatened the way major banks and financiers had accumulated power, profit, and political leverage before 1933. It didn't just regulate them, it restructured who controlled money, credit, and the risk in the United States, which now we know, that quote that they say that Meyer Amschel Bauer didn't make, right? It says what? Give me power over the making of a nation's money, and I care not who makes his laws. Who makes his law? It says the phrase "give me control over a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws" highlights the immense power and controlling currency. Suggests that whoever managed money can influence the economy and consequently political outcomes. more effectively than lawmakers. And we know that that's what the super elite have done, right? So they have these central banks, right? You got one in America called the Federal Reserve. Nothing federal about it. They work with the government, but they're not a government entity. That's why that dude, the guy Powell, he don't care about Trump bringing up charges against him. Ain't shit gonna stick, right? And they're not gonna change it, and they don't have to account to anybody. They got a free printing press. It says, while often attributed to Meyer Amschel Rothschild, founder of the Rothschild banking dynasty, there's no evidence he actually said it, and is now understood as a fabricated quote used in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. And that's what they use to basically defame anybody that talks against these people. They call you an anti-Semitic or conspiracy theorist, though it reflects ideas about financial power. These people run it. They're a banking elite, right? They're the top family. There are other banking families, but the Rothschilds are the top ones. And this has nothing to do with your religion. Nobody cares about your stupid religion because it don't mean shit. But they use anti-Semitic to what? To discourage people from listening to people that speak against them, right? And he did say this shit, right? When you control the money, you control everything because people needed to live and people will sell out for it. And you can buy somebody cheap. You see? So it says the New Deal broke Wall Street's control over government, but Wall Street has control over the government now. Before 1933, the large banks had enormous influence over Treasury policy, interest rates, and access to credit. Well, they still do. The financial elite have the Federal Reserve, and the New Deal reversed that. Under Franklin D. Roosevelt, the federal government took the lead in economic planning, used deficit spending without banker approval, treated finance as a public utility, not a ruling class. The bankers, to the bankers, this looked like a state encroachment on private power. Glass-Steagall directly hit banker profits. The Glass-Steagall Act in 1933 separated commercial banking from investment banking and ended risky speculation with depositors' money, limited consolidation and conflict of interest. For big banks, this meant less leverage, fewer speculative profits, lower political clout. To them, it wasn't stability, it was handcuffs. The New Deal shifted loyalty away from creditors. Historically, government prioritized bondholders and lenders. The New Deal prioritized workers, veterans, farmers, homeowners. Programs like job guarantees, mortgage relief, and Social Security meant that the state no longer existed primarily to protect creditors from losses. Now you do. You do. Through your mortgages and your job guarantees and your Social Security, you help the bankers protect against their losses. From the bank's view, if the government cushions failure over leverage, our leverage disappears. Well, what happened in 2008? What? Too big to fail. Remember that? You remember that? Too big to fail? Too big to fail. These bankers, there's a movie called that too. Right? Right? Too big to fail, or TBTF, describes financial institutions or companies so large and interconnected that its failure would cause catastrophic damage to the entire economy, leading governments to provide bailouts to prevent collapse, essentially subsidizing risky behavior and encouraging moral hazard. Yep. The term gained prominence in 2008 financial crisis when the major banks and auto companies received government support to avoid systemic economic meltdown, prompting reforms like the Dodd-Frank Act and to regulate such entities. Right? So you got too big to fail now. You see? It all makes sense, bro. And this guy, Smelly Butler, he try to expose it, man. It says the bankers fear precedents, not just policy. The New Deal suggested a dangerous idea to them. Markets exist to serve the people, not the other way around. If accepted, banking could be permanently regulated, which now it is not. Profits could be capped in crisis. Nationalization, see, all they care about is money, profits over people. They don't care about the crisis. They'll even bring a crisis to make more profits. Nationalization would no longer be unthinkable. This fear wasn't paranoia, it was historical memory. In Europe, during the same era, elites saw banks nationalize, assets seized, regimes topple. They worried the U.S. might follow. The New Deal weakened crisis leverage. Financial elites often gain power doing what? Doing what? Chaos. Order ab KO, baby. Order ab KO. And that's what you see going on today. Somebody's making money. They're not one of them who says you want to make money. What he says you want to buy. You want to buy when blood is running in the streets. Right? You want to buy. It says buy when there's blood in the streets, even if blood is your own, is a famous quote often attributed to Baron Rothschild. The phrase is a classic investment adage suggesting that the best time to buy assets is during periods of extreme market panic or crisis when prices have fallen dramatically due to widespread selling. You see? And that's what he said. He meant that shit. That's where they make their money at. They make their nut. That's what they call it, making my nut. I gotta make my nut. You know, these Edomites are devils, bro. And that the economic system is complete witchcraft, bro. This is the book of Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and take them by violence. You see what's going on in Venezuela. You see what happened all throughout the Middle East and North Africa, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage, man. You see? The book of Isaiah 29:15. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us? Who knoweth us? You see? Right? And that was for Jake at first. Now it's for these devils, man. That's how they work. They work in secret. Right? In the daytime, these niggas in the dark room, conjuring up demons, trying to get Satan to get them some economic strength, man. Right? That's what they do, man. You know how they do. Right? It says the New Deal weakened crisis leverage. Financial elites often gain power during chaos. Credit freezes, bank failures, government desperation. That's how they make money. It says Roosevelt stabilized the system too fast. Bank holidays restored confidence. FDIC stopped bank runs. Federal spending created demand. And you think he just, Roosevelt was just sitting up in a room and he came up with all these ideas? No. The banking elite gave him a new way of doing business. Right? Stability reduced Wall Street's ability to say, only we can fix this on our terms. Ideological opposition. Bankers saw it as collectivism. Many elite financiers sincerely believe hierarchy is natural. Markets reward the fit. Mass democracy is unstable. To them, the New Deal looked like mob rule, wealth redistribution, a step towards socialism or worse. The ideological fear helps explain why some elites flirted with authoritarian alternatives instead. Well, Houston Mullins said that the banking elite, they love a dictator. Right? He said they don't love a socialist. They want to deal with rather a dictator. Why you think Trump is in there? Right? It says why the opposition was covert and not open. They couldn't say we oppose feeding the hungry and employing the jobless. So resistance took subtle forms. Is not this man a subtle beast? He was more what? Subtle than the rest of all the field? Let me see if I can find that. This is the book of Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Man, this is heavy, bro. This is heavy information, bro. Shucks. The why do y'all about to sound shot? All right. Genesis, what is it? Genesis 3. Slock it, brothers. Genesis 3 and 1, often interpreted as Satan was described as more subtle than any beast of the field. Genesis 1 through 15. Let me get that. Genesis 1 through 15. I don't see it. If one of you brothers can post that precept that I'm trying to quote, he was more subtle to any beast of the field. Let me see. Oh, that's 1, 3 and 1. Genesis 3 and 1. I hate these fucking heathens, bro. They loud and fucking stupid and they fucking ignorant. I hate these people, bro. Genesis 3 and 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which Yahweh, by Shem Yahushua, the power had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, have the Most High said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. That word for subtle, I bet it's going to go into cunning. But that word for subtle in the Hebrew is I-rawum, right? Which is what? Subtle, shrewd, sly, crafty, shrewd, sensible. You see? And that's what this man is, man. They like to do things subtly, but still destroy you. Subterfuge. It says, why opposition was covert, not open. We oppose feeding. It says they couldn't say we oppose feeding the hungry and employing the jobless. So resistance took subtler forms: capital strikes, withholding investments, media campaigns, legal obstruction, behind the scenes lobbying. And this context is why episodes like the business plot even became convincible. So I said, is it safe to say that in these modern times that Wall Street and corporations have political hold now? Yes, it is fair to say that in modern times, Wall Street and large corporations hold significant political power, but it's more accurate to describe it as a structural influence rather than total control. It says, and look, nothing but Edomites, Jamie Powell. Money dominates access, not votes. Corporations don't usually decide elections directly. They decide who gets heard, which policies are realistic, what options are kept off the table. Campaigns are expensive. That reality gives Wall Street, big tech, defense contractors, and farmer and energy firms privileged access to lawmakers of both parties. So they own both sides of the coin. This dynamic accelerated after Citizens United versus FEC, which allowed unlimited independent political spending, just like in Rome, right? Did ancient Rome have political spending? Right. It says yes. In ancient Rome, ancient Rome had significant political spending, primarily through elite patronage, lavish public works funded by generals, emperors to gain popularity, lavish games, feasts, cure, and large-scale bribery and client serving, especially during the late Republic, often using personal wealth and state funds from conquest to secure loyalty in offices. So it's the same thing that's happening today. Ain't nothing changed. Lobbying is now a parallel government. Lobbying isn't persuasion anymore. It's policy writing. On Capitol Hill, many bills are drafted with industry lawyers. Regulators depend on the industry data. Congressional staffers routinely rotate into corporate jobs. This is called regulatory capture. Agencies meant to regulate an industry slowly begin to serve it. The revolving door locks in loyalty. The typical pattern: work in government, regulate or oversee in an industry, leave for a high-paying corporate role, return later as an expert. This creates future incentives. Don't anger the people who may employ you later. No conspiracy is required. The system rewards compliance. Wall Street shapes policy through risk narratives. Modern power isn't tanks or coups. It's financial threat. Markets will react badly, capital will flee, credit will dry up, investors' confidence will collapse. Governments often preemptively adjust policy to avoid these outcomes, especially during crisis. That's why banks get bailed out quickly. Austerity is imposed on the public. Losses are socialized, gains privatized. Media dependence reinforced the system. Major media outlets depend on corporate advertising, are owned by conglomerates, rely on financial analysis for expert commentary. This subtly narrows debate. Structural critiques become extreme. Pro-worker policies are labeled unrealistic. Market interests are framed as national interests. What's different from the 1930s? During the New Deal, government asserted dominance over finance. Banks fear regulations and exposure. Public pressure was overwhelming. Today, power is quieter, legalized, normalized, technocratic instead of authoritarian. And that's what we live in today. We live in a technocratic society. Right? Let's see what technocratic is. Because we do live in a technocracy. We do. What is technocratic? It means to rule or governance by technical experts in systems rather than by popular debate or moral argument. Power is justified by expertise, data, and efficiency, not by public consent or shared values. Are we in a technocracy? Are we in a technocracy? Are we in a technocracy? Yes, partially. We are not in a pure technocracy, but the U.S. and most modern states operate as a hybrid system. Electoral democracy on the surface, technocratic governments underneath. And that's what it is, man. And it benefits Esau, Edom, and all their ilks. So, yeah, man, I guess I don't have to read anymore. You know, this has been business plot, the American coup that failed, right? Or did it, right? That's the question. Or did it fail, right? Because it may not have failed, right? So I hope you were edified. I hope you got something from this, man. And Lord willing, I'll see you on the next go around, man. May the Lord continue to bless each and every last one of us, giving all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the bishop elders of Great Millstone for teaching us word and truth and sincerity. And shalom to the elect. Keep pushing, keep striving. We almost out of here. Shalom.